Hello friends, this is Meg at Chasing Retro. I wanted to share with you today many things that you can make using your square and circle punches. This past week, I was just looking on Facebook Marketplace for craft supplies as I do from time to time. I like to just search random types of items that I'm looking for and then put in a mile radius parameter as well as a parameter for price. And occasionally something really great will pop up at a great price. And that happened this week. I was able to buy 7 stamps from a lady. I got 4 round stamps and 3 square. The largest one that I got was I believe this is a 3-inch circle. And then I got a 3-inch square, sorry. And then I got 2 more smaller squares. This is the one that is not cutting very well of all of them. This one is a little bit on the middle of the flat sides. I feel like it needs sharpening. I don't know how to do that. If you guys have tips, let me know. I was able to stamp using my foot. I put my foot on the floor and put my heel on this because I was not able to exert enough pressure with the palm of my hand. I really don't want to keep doing that, but I will if I have to. But just let me know if you have any tips. And then I have this 1.5-inch square, and then of course all these. The only circle punch that I had to my name before this was a 1-inch circle punch. So obviously this opened up a world of possibilities for me. And I started looking at what other people make and making a list of things that I wanted to try to make myself so that I could show all of you in one big video. I really hope this helps you today. I have a list beside me so that I can stay on track. So we will start with the first item, and it is a vellum pocket with a vellum pocket. A vellum window pocket, sorry. It is a pocket made with cardstock, and I've just done the little pocket divot here and then glued a piece of square vellum after cutting a circle into the pocket. You can use a square as well, and it doesn't have to be this large of a circle, but now when you put things inside of it, you'll be able to see it poking through, and that's really neat. So you can make vellum window pockets. That's the first item. A lot of these things are best done in a mass making scale. So pick an item and just spend a couple of hours making as many of those as you can. One of the things that I did yesterday in my preparation for this was I got out my rubber and acrylic stamps, and I don't do that really often. It's not that I don't love stamping. 2 reasons. It's a big ordeal for me to get them out because I don't store them in my regular craft space. And number 2, I don't think I'm very good at not only stamping a good clear image, but also knowing how to compose the space in order to make it look just not awkward. So don't criticize my stamping too much. If you are a stamper, you're probably much better at it than me. So please just do what you do in your own fashion. But what I did is I punched out a bunch of little squares, medium-sized squares, and circles, and just proceeded to use my rubber stamps to make these can just be little embellishments on the corner of a page, or you can attach them to the top of a tag, or you can use them in your master boards or collages. So I used a manila folder for punching most of these, and then I have these awesome stamps that have a bunch of numbers on them. I thought that looked pretty cute. This is a giant number 3. This is a really unique one. This is a light pink cardstock. This one is just a little receive stamp with a date. This is it looks like a postage stamp mark, but it's actually like a made in a factory stamp. This is a butterfly in orange. It's not very vivid, but it's still cute, I think. This is a address stamp that I had from Switzerland, some random person in Switzerland, and then a little house stamp. So I thought I'd put this aside for my house and home journals. These are just some fun little floral stamps that I got a while back at an antique store. This is a tansy. I did this with the Vintage Photo ink pad. This is also a Vintage Photo ink pad. Just some more little, I guess you would just call that handwriting stamp. Here's another number. So these are probably what I'm most excited about. This is a stamp set that I got off of Temu, and it was somewhat frustrating because the stamps were on one large sheet and I had to cut them apart, but that's okay because look what I ended up with. The font looks so 50s. I love it. And I thought these looked like a clothing tag or some sort of a tag for retail. So I will definitely be using these in my vintage retail journal. I love the way it looks with the pink. It almost looks like a tag you put on a dress. These are stamps that I got in a set by Heidi Swap. They're just little handwriting, and there's a map and a little typed dictionary looking stamp. Here's another tansy, or that might be Queen Anne's lace. This says enjoy the now. This is a fun one. This was a long phrase and I cut it in half to make it 2 different text blocks, and I stacked them like that. This is another number one. I did this one as a diamond. A little peony or some sort of flower. A butterfly on yellow. This is a Martha Stewart stamp, and this is Heidi Swap as well. Blue butterfly, another Heidi Swap, and another Heidi Swap. So those are just really easy and fun to do, and you can just put them in a little file box and have them for your projects for later. The next thing I wanted to show you is layered circle flowers. I call this a flower. If you add a leaf, it would really make it look like a flower, but it's just 3 concentric circles in patterns that sort of harmonize with each other, and then the middle is a little hole punch hole remnant that I put in the middle, and you can just attach that to a page or to a card or a tag or a pocket as an embellishment. Next, I wanted to show you some more flowers. I cannot take credit for this idea. I found it on YouTube. But these, I'm going to call these rotating petal flowers. And I made 3 small ones and 1 large one. So all you do to make these is you punch a circle for the base, then you punch 3 more circles, and then you cut each of those circles into 3 wedges. And then you just array them in a pinwheel style fashion. I added, with my white gel pen, I used the Uniball Signo. I added some elements there for decoration, and then in the center, this is a hole punch that I put dots on, and then these are pearls, flat back pearls. I thought these were really cool. These are a little more time consuming, but again, if you mass make a bunch of these, you will have them stacked and ready for your projects. The next item I wanted to show you is that you can make a tag to hang on a bulb pen as a tag to hang on like the side of your journal on lace, or maybe put into a tassel on the side. This is a stack of 3 pieces of cardstock. I have 2 manila folder pieces and then a decorative pink piece. I glued all 3 pieces together and put something heavy on top of it until it was completely dry. And then I punched a hole and put an eyelet, and then I decorated it with a little paper flower. The next thing you can make is mini postage stamps. They're much bigger than a postage stamp, but these are just images that I got off of, oops, I had some glue that stuck to that one. That's okay. These are images that I clipped out of books. Yeah, most of these are children's books. And I used a square or circle punch to punch, most of them are square. I think I only have 1 circle. And then I inked the edges, and then I glued it down to plain white or manila cardstock, and then I used decorative scissors. I don't know if I have them available. It's not this one, but these are just the cheap kind that you can get at Michael's. I know that Fiskars makes some better ones that are probably sharper, because as you can see, mine left some residue, but I just created a bumpy postage stamp type edge. And then I added one of the Tim Holtz ideology phrases just to be fun. Here's another one of a bird singing. This is from a children's reader. This is from a sewing pattern counter catalog, actually. It was an offcut from something that I used in another project, and I didn't want to lose the cute feet and the dress. So, a little deer from an Ideals magazine. Look at that horse's eyelashes. A little duckling. A wild horse. These are both from the Ideals magazine. This is from a book, trying to remember, I think it's the Harry book. Remember A Sweater for Harry? I think that's what it's called. I love this illustration style. Another horse. The duck's riding on the back this time. Another bunny. I added another word here. This is from a science book. He is changing a fuse. Another children's reader, and this is from a children's novel. And I did not do a good job cutting, so don't judge that, but I cut a scalloped edge on that one. So those are postage stamp embellishments. You can also make tabs. You can make a plain semicircle tab using just a circle punch that you fold in half. I glued it here with a little bit of tab sticking up, but you could also put it flush with the card just to give you a little visual element. But I thought this would make it easier to pull out of a pocket or a envelope. You can also make whale tail tabs. This is harder than it looks. This is the only one that turned out somewhat decent to show you, but it is a circle, and then you fold it, and then you go back in with a smaller circle punch and you punch that. Getting both sides even is a challenge. There are videos online on how to do this, but if you don't have a whale tail punch, this is a great way to create that effect. You can also create flagged ends. So these are just off-cut strips of cardstock. A lot of times I like to use these to make frankenpaper. I'm sure you've seen that I love to make frankenpaper tags, but I just took some offcuts and cut them in half and then inked the edges. Well, first I punched. So what you would do for this is you would put it into your square punch, matching up the bottom corners of the paper, and then, see, I didn't do that very well. That's why this one is a little off center. You would punch right there, and it should create, this one's better, it should create a 90-degree angle to make a flag. And you can use this by itself. You can stack 2 or 3 together that are different lengths, or you can do something like this and put it at the top of a page. Next, you can use square punches to make teeny tiny envelopes. You can use your envelope punch board by We Are Memory Keepers if you have one, but if you don't, all you do is you punch a square, you fold in the 2 outside corners until they meet, and then fold this corner up. You would then take a little pair of scissors and cut it flat, and then you would fold this one down, and I like to round the corners of this top one. These are adorable and would be so cute tucked into a small pocket or paper clipped onto a page. Next, you can create diamond cascade embellishments. That's what I'm going to call these. I've done these in the past with my offcuts. Like if I have a strip like this, I'll just cut this into 10 squares and put it in a box, and then I can make these really quickly. You can use circles as well, but you just turn them so that they're diamonds, and you layer them on top of each other and sew straight down. These look really cute on the edge of a page. Next, you can make slide mounts or specimen slides. This is just a rectangular piece of paper that I folded in half, rounded the edges, used a punch to punch through both of them. For my punch that was not very sharp, that was quite the challenge, but if you have a better punch, you can obviously do that much easier. Then I did 2 different methods. This method has no acetate. I just sandwiched a butterfly die cut in here and glued it down and then sewed it in place. I sewed around the outside as well. This one, I got 2 pieces of acetate, and I sandwiched that bug in there because, you know, I don't want this guy coming out. So he's in there for good. And then you sew around that, and then you sew around that, and you have a little specimen slide. This is another one that I did that's bigger, and this one is, I used ledger paper as the background, and I put a mushroom there. Next, you can make clusters, and these probably are my favorite. I could sit and make these for hours. So you can use, honestly, any of your punches, but I punched some circles out of some vintage Kmart blueprints, and then I had this little guy fussy cut from a children's book, and then I had this really awesome vintage fabric, and I just layered them and did a zigzag to hold them together. This is a large circle punched out of a children's book. I had this bunny. I cut him off of a bookmark from my local library. And then this is a square that I turned sideways into a diamond. And last but not least, another book page. These are 2 different sized circles, and then a paper butterfly that I cut out of a calendar. Now, the easy one. You can just go through and punch circles. If you have a huge stack of just scraps that you don't really know what to do with, but they have pretty large, stunning, eye-catching images in them, punch them out and just put them in a box, and you can use them as a base for some of these other things later. You can also use them as a decoration on a page. But don't throw away these sheets of cardstock or book pages that have eye-catching images. You can also do this with a book that has maybe one character by herself or by himself. Punch it out, ink the edges, and you have a really cool embellishment for later. Along the same lines is making tuck spots out of large circles. You can also use squares. So here are 3 tuck spots that I use a large piece of cardstock, and I put an image on top. This one fits in the circle, but I really like it when they come off the circle. This is a sewing pattern lady, and then this is a children's book, and I put a little felt letter B for boy or blocks. And that's a perfect place. Let me show you. Put it here on the corner, and then you'll be able to tuck in. You glue it here and here, then you can use it as a place to store a tag or a piece of stationery or something. These are tuck spots. Next, journaling cards. The possibilities with these are endless. With this one, I created a flower using different shape sizes of circles, and then I made a stem and a little leaf. And I just thought it's so simple and whimsical, but so adorable. This is just a regular sheet of cardstock that I cut into a rectangle, rounded the edges. I punched this out of a Bobbsey Twins book, inked the edges, and sewed. Glued first and then sewed. And then I just added a book quote that I had snipped a while back. And last of all, this is a sheet of not cardstock. It's the thin paper from Hobby Lobby. So I backed it with cardstock for weight. And then I punched a window, put an image underneath. I believe this is from a Barbie novel. I put an image underneath and then sewed it to hold it in place. So the difference in this is this image is on top of the cardstock, and this image comes from underneath the cardstock. You can make belly bands. This is also not my original idea, but I love it. So this could be put to the center of a page. You can cut it to trim your book, and then you have this adorable place to hold things in place as a belly band. And all I did was put a tiny dot of glue to hold each circle in place. I used my grid underneath my cutting mat to make sure I was putting them in a straight line. So you just line the edge of the circle with the mat, put tiny dots of glue to hold them, and then I sewed at the sewing machine. I don't think I did a very good job spacing them out this way, but you know what? It's a junk journal. So that's a belly band. Then you can take the same sort of concept, but make a side tuck. Well, first of all, you can do it this way on the edge of a page as just a page decoration, or as a side tuck. Glue this side down and leave this side open. Or you can use circles cut in half. First glue them, then sew them, then glue the whole thing down to a page, and you have a beautiful side tuck. This is double-sided cardstock, and I thought that, you know, they make the images to go well with each other on double-sided, so I just reversed them. So now I have something I can use on either side. That's a side tuck. A corner tuck. This goes back to the days of geometry where you play with little tessellation tiles. So this is a circle cut in half, and then you put the flat sides facing away from each other and you form a 90-degree angle. Then you go to your journal, and at the very top corner of your page, you glue this edge and this edge, and you have a place to tuck something in the corner. Adorable. Make sure you do put glue right here so that when you try to do this, it won't try to go between the two circles. That's a corner tuck. We're almost at the end, guys. Next is the circle pocket. These are two pieces of cardstock layered. I cut a circle and then another circle and cut the second one in half, and I glued it on top with an opening. So now we have, I have a string stuck to my Post-it note. Now we have a little pocket for you to put a tiny little, you know what, this might be a good place for the little envelope. A little tiny pocket, and then I just used another circle and sewed this paper flower on top. So we have this cute little embellishment. This can be a floating pocket, or you can glue it down to a page, or you can create a pocket also as a tuck spot by gluing just two sides, and then you have this. This is one of my favorites. A fold-out pocket, a fold-out circle journaling spot. I used another book quote, and I used some bicycle cardstock, one of those pieces that I don't really know what else to do with. I made 4 circles. 3 of these are regular paper, and the front and the back are cardstock. I punched 4 circles, I stacked them. I used my Memory Keeper's Crop-A-Dile. You use the small punch hole right here, punched a hole and put a mini brad, and then all you do is you fan it out, and you have multiple places to journal, sort of a secret journaling spot. And it all folds back into each other. Next is a tag. I call this a caterpillar tag, and you'll see why in a second. It looks like a caterpillar. This is just 3 large circles that are glued together. I could not figure out a way to sew it. I wanted to sew around each circle, but then you would have trouble. It's just really hard to get things to glue flat once you do that, so I decided not to sew this one. Then I punched a hole and put a reinforcer, and then I put a ribbon so it looks kind of like the caterpillar's antenna. I thought this was so adorable. You don't have to use plain color paper. You could use pattern cardstock and it would be just as cute. You could also embellish this in some way. You could put something on the front and then have journaling space on the back. Last but not least, use your tiny squares to make a paper quilt. I gathered all of my yellow, orange, and green papers, and I punched I think this is 1 1/4 inch squares, and I just put them in a row, glued them down with a glue stick, and then as soon as everything was in place, I took it over to my sewing machine and I sewed zigzag both directions, holding down the edges of all the squares. You can use this as a page, You can also cut it into pockets, tags, anything like that. I would suggest if you do pockets and tags, once you cut it out and you've made your pocket, take it back over to the sewing machine and do a sew around the outside with a straight stitch. That just makes sure everything is held down nicely. So guys, I hope you enjoyed these ideas on how to use your square and circle punches. Way more ideas than I probably needed to give in one video, but I wanted to get everything out so that you could start creating and mass making some of these things. This was a joy to create for you. It was really fun to see how many things I could make just using these new tools that I got this weekend. And thanks for watching as always. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.